Hello and welcome to the Radio Times podcast. My name's Tim Glanfield, editor of radiotimes.com, and today we'll be talking about The Crown Season 2, X Factor Final, and what's the best Christmas film? I'm joined now by Eleanor Bligh-Griffiths and Sarah Doran to talk about The Crown Season 2. Now, you've both seen a preview of Season 2 of The Crown, starring Matt Smith, former Doctor Who, and Claire Foy. Where did we leave it at the end of Series 1, Eleanor?
Well, Philip was just about to set off on his Commonwealth tour. He was going to go and open the Olympics, and he had a 5-month tour coming up. There was kind of a bit of tension in the royal marriage. We also had Margaret was heartbroken after Group Captain Townsend, her engagement had fallen through, so there was tension there. And Churchill had gone. Anthony Eden was in, so.
It was quite dramatic. I think at the end of season 1, like, my heart was breaking for poor Peter, Group Captain Townsend. What a man! Formerly of Coupling, the sitcom series. And I think it really did, like Eleanor said, it like hinted at this kind of domestic discord that is really amped up in the trailers for The Crown Season 2, that, you know, all is not well in the royal marriage, and what's going to happen. You know, the clouds are gathering, the storm is gathering, and we were coming up towards the Suez crisis towards the end of Series 1 as well, so international affairs weren't so pretty either.
But we were also seeing the Queen kind of settling into her role and kind of finding her feet. You know, we saw her kind of insecurity about her intellect and like where she stood with the Prime Minister and stuff, and by the end of the series she'd really kind of come into her own in that sense. So
what eras are we going to see in Season 2? Where are we at the beginning of Season 2, and what kind of era are we in? What historical events might we come across?
Well, we're kicking off with Eden in his role as Prime Minister, so we're talking about the Suez crisis. So 1950.
Testing your history now.
Yes, we both did history at uni, so this is like a brain off.
Yeah.
Well, was it 1956?
It was 1956.
Yeah, okay.
And then we go straight through to the Perfumer affair of 1963.
So we're going, and we have, like, along the way we meet like big characters like JFK and his presidency. We're jumping in and about, you know, with international affairs, with kind of the breakup or the initial signs of the breakup of the Commonwealth, and watching as kind of the empire starts to really dissolve quite a bit. So some pretty big moments in British history. So not an easy thing, I think, to cover, you know, quite extensively. So I think they're really trying to just hone in on a few and get them right. I think
I would say so. I mean, there's huge amounts of history that happens in this period that they have to kind of fit in. So they do have those kind of, they have to cover all of that, but then at the same time they find ways to have like whole episodes devoted to very sort of small but significant things that are happening for the royal family or for the country. You
mentioned JFK. Have we got any new actors or actresses in the show that people might have heard of?
Yeah, so JFK is played by Michael C. Hall, who's Dexter, so he's not cutting up bodies. He is just cutting a rug across Buckingham Palace.
A fairly convincing accent.
I wasn't. I'm not convinced by the accent, but I'll step back and let people watch it and make up their own minds. Then we've got
Jodie Balfour is Jackie Kennedy.
Yes,
and she's all right, I think. She does. We have this interesting storyline where she kind of has some friction with the Queen, which is not something that we kind of would ever know about, and we don't know about anything that
I think that's one of the things I quite like about The Crown, that Peter Morgan, he does a lot of research and he picks up on all these little things that may have been kind of talked about, may have been documented, but he pulls them out and you actually discover there was a lot more potentially going on. It's hard because sometimes you don't want to go too much into like this kind of historical fiction or historical fact, so it's skirting on the edge of that.
Do you think that's part of the success of the series? I mean, it's undoubtedly been one of Netflix's big kind of successes, a real move into the kind of quality drama market. And do you think that kind of historical, is it real, isn't it? You know, is that something that we think people like about the show?
Yeah, and I think it's quite clever the way he does it, because he does stick as far as possible to things that we know, but then because it's the royal family and because we can never know what goes on behind closed doors entirely, he does have that license to play around with people and sort of speculate. dramatically.
I think he particularly does it quite well throughout this series because we know the rumours of whether Prince Philip was faithful to the Queen or not. They were in the tabloids throughout the years. And I think Peter Morgan handles it very well because he presents you with this kind of series of events. He doesn't really make a judgment and he leaves it up to you to come down
kind of
on whichever side you want. Yeah, exactly. I think it's
and
quite
the royals
clever.
are just, people just can't get enough of the royals. We see this
No.
this week with the engagement of Harry and former Suits star Meghan Markle.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make a show about the royals that people don't like? It seems to be this kind of universal kind of lust for more and more royal dramas and coverage. We see the success of Victoria on, and obviously it's a different era, but it's still there's something that people just love about stories about the royal family.
Yeah, I think you definitely have that element of it. And then I also think, I'm kind of a Republican. I'm no big fan of the royal family, but I really love The Crown. And I think that's quite clever that he's made it a drama that you can engage with, even if you're not actually a monarchist.
I think that's so true though. You really don't have to be a monarchist to kind of lap it all up. Like I'm not particularly a monarchist. I'm Irish, so you could say I'm very antithesis of a monarchist. But I loved, say, the Meghan and Harry photo call this week. I love The Crown. I really love the Royals on E, which is this completely amped up, crazy Liz Hurley Queen, people being murdered left, right, and centre. Because there's something about monarchy that whether you believe in it or want it to be in your country or you want it to be the kind of rule of law, there's something fascinating about it. It's so sumptuous. It is the fairy tale. It is jewels and balls and big houses and crowns and, people getting up to all sorts of mischief. And there's something quite fascinating about that.
And I guess it's also a family.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something that we relate to. So it's on the big level, it's the most glamorous family in the world and the most talked about family in the world. But it is also still a family. It has all those dynamics.
Yeah.
And layering that, that glamorous side with a family story is kind of quite interesting, and it hits a nerve with most people, I guess.
I think that really ties in with what I think will be the most talked about episode of the series, which is episode 9, which is where we kind of see young Philip and young Charles, and kind of we have this real family story that's very personal, and it's really about the way things have repeated themselves and the way a father can be so blind to what his son is really like and whether the kind of love he needs. So we have Philip forcing Charles to go to his old boarding school in Gordonston, and Charles is desperately unhappy, and he was in real life really unhappy. But then we also flash back to Philip's childhood, where he kind of almost found a home there himself because he was sort of came over and was kind of rejected by his family a bit. He lost his sister, and really flourished there. So he can't see his son being different from him, and it's really heartbreaking. And the kid who plays Philip, Finn Elliott, is really good as well.
And I think as well, if we're speaking of family dramas, I think one that kind of started off in series 1 and really comes in again in series 2 is especially the tension between Elizabeth and Margaret over, Margaret's choices and the men Margaret, has chosen to be with. First Peter Townsend, and in the new series, Matthew Goode comes in to play Lord Snowdon, or Anthony Armstrong Jones, I think he's known at the time. And your heart breaks for her as well, because you can see that she just wants to find a happiness. She just wants to break out, but at the same time, she doesn't want to give up her royal title or the kind of family that she has at home too. So it's quite an interesting dynamic.
I love her character. I think Vanessa Kirby is one of the standouts of it, really, because, she's just... she's sympathetic, but she's also kind of loathsome and spiteful and nasty and heartbroken, and
she's a bit like it's a bit like an episode of Dynasty, She's like the Alexis Carrington, though not quite as as Joan Collins maybe, but there is something. She's the glamour that Liz has to do the day by day. She has to do the running of the country. She has to wear the crown and kind of be this. Almost this character, not with no personality, because Claire Foy can't do no personality. She's fantastic, but she can't be that princess.
Reined in.
Yeah. So, is the Tricky second album? Is it good? Is it as good as the first series in your opinions?
I'm not fully sold. I think, like all Tricky second albums, it has a few dodgy tracks along the way that I'm maybe not sold on. I feel like a
not
few...
Not track 9, by the sounds of it.
No, track 9's amazing. That's an excellent track.
But maybe don't watch it
there are a few
first, though.
Yeah, there are a few episodes I would say are a bit more of a B-side than a
Some,
hit.
some filler, not all killer.
I think so.
Eleanor, do you agree?
I kind of just felt like it was more of the same. It just kind of flowed along very nicely from series 1. And I was a fan. I thought it worked. I mean, I think they had in some ways a more difficult narrative to face in series 2. So in series 1 you got the kind of, she comes to the crown and she's settling in and all of this stuff happens.
It was setting the
She's
stage,
getting married,
essentially.
yeah. And now this is the heavy stuff of 10 years into a marriage and like sort of bogged down in the post-colonial politics and stuff. And I think it handles that very well. So I'm still a fan.
I'm still a fan as well. I just wasn't as convinced.
I guess it's always difficult when you're continuing a story, and from that, of course, the next difficult step for The Crown is we know it's going to continue, but it's going to continue with different people, which is quite a brave, bold move to recast your 2 leads, because obviously the age problem is that they're too young.
Yeah, I'll be really sorry to see them go. Though I do agree that like we get to the end of series 2 and Claire Foy is like throwing out lines like, "Oh, I'm a middle-aged woman now," and you're like, "You really don't look it. You're just wearing a headscarf." So you can kind of understand why they've drafted in Olivia Colman, who I'm sure we'll get onto in a second. But I think for Claire Foy and Matt Smith, particularly this series, I think Matt Smith has played Blinder. And so I will be sad to see them go because they are like Liz and Phil in my mind at this stage. So it's going to be so strange.
I see the actual royals now and I'm like, who are these imposters? But I mean, I kind of have to trust Peter Morgan in a way because he's done so well so far to be able to navigate that. But at the same time, it is really tricky. For one thing, they're leaping forward another sort of 10 years or so. So we're losing all of that continuous narrative. And then to just have a completely different
So we know
cast.
there's going to be a new queen, and who's playing her?
Olivia Colman, our favourite.
Amazing! I'm just going to do that.
Yeah, and you have to trust her as
amazing.
well because she can't do wrong.
I can't wait for her to do the accent though. I just can't wait for her to, and when you see her in Broadchurch and she's giving like David Tennant's character these like stares and she's smashing up laptops, and I know she won't play the same character,
Well,
but
no,
you
that's
definitely
acting, isn't it?
yeah, it's definitely.
Famously.
But I can't wait to see those kind of clipped looks.
Well, she's
Yeah.
played the Queen Mother before, so we know that she can do a good royal.
Yeah.
For sure.
But we don't know who
Yes.
her Philip will be.
No, we know who the fans want it to be.
Who do they want it to be?
David Tennant.
They really want David Tennant. Like, I hate to say this, I don't think we can have him. I don't know.
Yeah, I would. I mean, the fact that she herself has said that she would quite like David Tennant.
Yeah.
I feel like she wouldn't say that if it was an actual.
I feel like then, I mean,
she was
the whole
double-bluffing.
selling point of The Crown is The Crown. It's a royal drama. It's this
Yeah.
family drama. I think if you go David Tennant and Olivia Colman in The Crown, you kind of move away from that maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you can quite do that.
Well, they have had one former Doctor, so
That is
why
true.
not continue
Yeah.
this theme? Are there any other names that people have been suggesting that might work?
My personal favourite would be Benedict Cumberbatch throwing a bit Sherlock.
I think he's got
But-
time.
Maybe not.
I would love to see him playing a politician on the side. I'm just going to say that.
Maybe a Jude Law or a Paul Bettany. Or,
Paul Bettany doesn't have the face.
Nah.
He's not got a Philip face.
He's not got a Philip face.
He's a lovely face, but he hasn't got a Philip face.
And on that note, I think we'll end our Crown Season 2 debate. The Crown is Season 2 drops onto Netflix on the 8th.
Friday
Yes.
the 8th of December.
Friday 8th December, so tune in your computers and tablets and tellies and any other device you can get Netflix on for Crown Season 2, 8th December. I'm now joined by Francis Taylor and again Sarah to talk about the X Factor. So X Factor 2017 coming to an exciting climax. We're all looking forward to the final this weekend. Francis, you've been following it all the way through. What's 2017 been like as a series? You need a medal?
Yeah,
Oh,
commemorative
that's a shame.
plate for making it this far. I'm not sure how many people have actually watched every episode of The X Factor, apart from myself. And I have to say, I mean, the talent has been really good. That's what has been so standout about this series. I mean, acts like Raksu, Grace Davies, they're coming every single week writing their own songs, their own material.
And that's a change, right? That's a
Yeah,
relatively new
massive.
thing.
It is, and you know what? It's really given everything a lift. It's given it a lot of credibility. What they're coming out with is that the songs are so catchy and you love them. It's fantastic. But sadly, the format has let them down quite significantly.
Completely. I think it's like it's turned it almost into a case of a little bit too little too late. Like, to have what they have now, if they'd had it 5 years ago, I think the nation would be blown away. They could be competing with Strictly again, but I think everybody's kind of become a bit tired, and then they tried to do these format changes that keep chopping and changing every week. Like, we will have a double elimination. Actually, no, do you know what? We won't, because I think they need more TV time, and it's kind of, people have kind of lost trust, I think, in the show and what it's going to do next.
I think a lot of people have, but it's funny, all that chopping and changing is that it's tried to make it exciting and give it something that we haven't seen before, and actually it's just confused people, least of all Dermot O'Leary, who didn't know what he was doing in week one when he was saying, oh, you've won, oh, you know, you haven't, what's going on? Very, very confusing, and viewers have sort of turned off from that, I think. So they've tuned in, they've gone, this isn't the X Factor we know and love, there's no results show, there's no sing-off, we don't know what's going on, and actually they've just dropped.
So what has happened this year? Because it's all been accelerated, isn't it? Because the X Factor used to be an event. You go through judges' houses, which was a brilliant tear-jerking weekend, always was for me. And then you get into your live stuff, and live stuff had gone forever. It'd be like 12 weeks into Christmas. It was a marathon slog. And it was a real commitment, but you would make it because it mattered. It was like a countdown to Christmas. It was like the original, TV advent calendar, so to speak. Yeah, and you're counting down to Christmas. You're essentially counting down to who's going to sing Christmas number one as well, right? That was the game. And this year it just feels like the live shows have been put into a much smaller box. They're condensed to Saturday and Sunday. It's all a bit confusing, like you say. Do you got a sense of why this change has happened? Well, the story they always go with is, oh, Simon loves a revamp. He loves a revamp. That's why he's done it. But and there could be an argument on that, because obviously they look at the ratings from last year and how it performed, again, not very well. So they think, how can we change it this year and what can we do that's different? But why other reality shows are still doing so well, like Strictly or Britain's Got Talent, is that people know what they're getting when they come to it. It's got very set format, and actually that works really, really well. But what X Factor has done, especially for the last few years, I mean, it had a golden period where you did know exactly what you were getting. It was fantastic. But the last few years, they've had a lot of revamps with, bringing in Nick Grimshaw and dropping Dermot O'Leary in 2015. It was a really, I think a lot of people actually, that was the year that they tuned in. Completely. They thought, what is this? Switched off. And they've never really come back to it, despite the fact that they did then bring back Louis and Sharon and Nicole and all that sort of stuff. But do you think also, are they producing superstars? I mean, have they done in the last few years? And the X Factor, the whole point of it is we're going to produce the next big pop star. It's just become The Voice. It's really, it's kind of not. And that's The Voice's problem, right? It wasn't producing people that anyone ever heard of. And there are obviously massive successes from the X Factor. I think, like, when you look, but who was the last really big act to come out of it? Little Mix, I think. It's probably one of the James Arthur. James Arthur, of course. Jinx. Yeah. But only because he went away for so long. Exactly, and then came back. He was part of the Scrap Heap, and he had this incredible revival where he signed to Psycho again. He was getting number ones, and it was really incredible. But that is a real anomaly. I mean, that's very, very rare. But do you think is that a problem, that they're not, if you're not producing the hits, does that, the credibility of the show isn't it does, as such? But I do think that this year, again, they've clawed back some of that credibility by having acts that are doing their own songs and that are so great. Is that what the audience want, though? Because I think that, I mean, I'm talking personally, and a big X Factor fan for many, many years, I like hearing people ruin my favourite songs or do them really well, and that's the fun of it, isn't it? It's like, that cover, I could have done that better, or that's an amazing reworking of that song that I know. And it's that familiarity that makes it kind of family thing. Everyone knows the songs, you don't have to concentrate too hard. Whereas original music, it's like, it's like seeing the support act when you go and see your favourite, but you don't listen because or when your favourite band say, I've got a new one, and you're like, oh, great. I do think get through that. I do think in defence, people have been really impressed with some of the original music. Like, I think particularly Raksu this year have produced some very catchy numbers that people get really involved with. Yeah. But I do agree, I miss the cheese. Like, the whole joy of X Factor was that mixed in with some incredible singers, you had a bit of cheese as well. You had the kind of, to go really far back, you had someone like Same Difference, incredibly annoying double act, but you knew they were going to do the bit of S Club 7, and they were going to do the the upbeat All I Want for Christmas Is You kind of fun, and X Factor needs that in little ways to kind of show, because that's what shows you the difference between the Grace Davieses and the Raksus and the Wagners and the Jedwards. It's having that kind of dilemma, having things like someone like Lucy from Wales who goes out against Jedward, having that injustice
that's what makes it a TV show. And I think when X Factor almost becomes too much about the music, it loses its magic.
Well, it's not what it used to. It's not what the show's about, you know. So we've got The Voice for that, where it's all about the voice. It's very credible, and let's not criticise them. And that's the road that X Factor has actually gone down this series, where the criticism, the feedback that the judges have been giving has been just so bland. I mean, Louis is saying the same thing every single week, where he just says, you made it your own. And I know it's a joke that he does say that a lot in the past, but it really has become repetitive, where they're saying nothing interesting. It's very, very dull, and I completely agree with you. Really, it's just lost it.
So what? I mean, it sounds like it's interesting because you're saying that X Factor, in a sense, is better than ever in the fact that they've brought in new stuff, which makes it more credible. You're getting interesting acts, and I you know, as somebody who likes music, I'm a big fan of that. I think as somebody who likes entertainment, I'm less keen because for the reasons I've said, I quite like the familiarity of the songs and the repetitive nature of and knowing where the joke act's going to be and what they're going to do. And they've got 2 more years on contract, right? They've got to keep making it. It's signed up with BGT. But like, what can they do? Because people say don't change it, do change it. Then they do make a change, and people say don't like it. And it's like, well, I feel a bit sorry for them in a sense, because they make changes.
Damned if they do. I really do. Yeah, I think it has almost gone beyond now, where they can't really do anything else. I mean, I personally would like to see them at the very, very least, bring back the Sunday night results show
Completely,
and just get rid of one person a week, rather than this complete slash and burn that they've done this year, where, you know, you have sort of a double elimination where you've got 4 people leaving over a weekend.
You get somebody's entire category wiped out in 1 week, and where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
And I also think, though, when talking about the joke acts and stuff, I think it is really nice to have that mix in. I think do definitely bring that back, but when you have someone like last year, Honey G, it just jumps the shark almost, where it's
too far.
She was very talked about.
I know, and actually,
you could say that got the X Factor back in the tabloids, and
it did. And I have to admit, this year, if you did go out into the street and say to people, "Can you name someone who's on the X Factor this year?" I think you would struggle to actually find someone to name.
Yeah, no, I think they'd be happy with another Honey G.
They probably would, but I do think that, you know, the Jedwards and that are good, but you believe at least they're a real person, whereas Honey G is clearly a character construct, and I think that's just something that shouldn't really be entering into the X Factor. But clearly they thought that as well, and we haven't had anyone like that this year, and it's made it rather bland.
So you're saying you don't think it's been the best series ever. Who do you think's going to win? Who's going to win it? Come on, let's put our money where our mouths are.
Well, the 2 favourites from the beginning have been Grace and Rak-Soo, and rather boringly and predictably, they won the prize fight in the first week, which again has been a very strange construct, but anyway, I do think it'll be between them. I think Rak-Soo could nudge it, if I'm honest, and I would really like to see them win.
I agree. I think Rak-Soo have the edge. I think they have that kind of Reggie and Bolly feel from years back, but with a little bit more kind of, I don't want to say credibility, because Reggie and Bolly were perfectly credible, but I think it's kind of believability and the kind of cool factor that maybe they didn't have. And I think people buy into them a lot more, so I think they could take it.
Every creative brand new song that they do, as you say, is really catchy. It's gone in the iTunes charts. People love it. I've still got them going around my head, and I think they're fantastic.
But to quote Louis, they look like pop stars. They sound like pop stars, and they could literally be pop stars tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, they will be.
And so do you think that might be X Factor's winning ticket next year, the fact that they produce new original pop stars and people say, you know what, actually I'll give it another go?
No.
I don't know.
Well, tune in to the X Factor this weekend to find out who wins. It's almost Christmas, and that of course can only mean one thing: the annual debate we have on radiotimes.com, what is the greatest Christmas film of all time. But another debate, of course, is what is a Christmas film, which is in itself a divisive subject. In the past, some of the favourite Christmas films that we've had voted for on the site have been Love Actually, Elf, and It's a Wonderful Life, which I personally think is quite depressing almost all the way through.
Like Christmas.
Comes good in the end. Yeah. Unlike Christmas, it doesn't really come good Christmas. Anyway, here we are again. I'm here with Paul Jones and Sarah, who's been here throughout. She's a stalwart of the podcast. So what makes a Christmas film, for a start? What is a Christmas? There's been some debate about Die Hard this week. Is it a Christmas film?
Well, I mean, does it make you feel Christmassy? I suppose would be one of the things that I would say.
Does Die Hard make you feel
Die
Christmassy?
Hard makes me
very
feel
much so.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother flipping Christmassy.
Bruce Willis
yeah.
in a vest makes me feel Christmassy.
Well,
He could be doing anything.
To be fair, though, Die Hard does have a lot of the other
Christmas.
elements that you would. It's at Christmas. There's a Christmas office party in it.
Yeah, that's true.
There's ho ho ho. Now I have a gun. What could be more
I'm
Christmassy?
I'm gonna confess, I've never actually watched Die Hard.
What?
I've never seen Die Hard. I've played the video game.
Oh, that's fine.
Did
Did you feel Christmassy while you were playing it?
I'm not sure. I think it was the Die Hard
not
2
sure.
Christmas game where it was like a Christmas airline terminal or something like that.
Oh, that's Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 2.
Isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Maybe it's not.
different.
Yeah.
You played Die Hard 2, the video game, which I don't think qualifies you to
Hands up.
talk about Die Hard, the
No.
film, but you joined in anyway, why not?
But I've heard, but from everybody I've
From what
ever
I've
spoken to, they all quote the things Paul's saying.
Yeah,
they
it's
all
Christmas.
say it wouldn't
It's
be
a Christmas
Christmas
film.
without
I think
Die Hard.
Absolutely.
That's settled.
And it ends with the song "Let It Snow," which is one of the Christmassiest songs
very much
ever.
so.
Yeah, it's definitely a Christmas song.
It's a Christmas film.
Christmas film.
So from two people who've seen it and one person who's played Die Hard 2, the video game, we can officially confirm
I'm
Die
taking
Hard.
it on authority that
Yeah.
Die Hard counts
Die
as a
Hard
Christmas film.
But is it the greatest Christmas film ever made?
It's up
Is
there
it?
for me.
Is
It's
it?
up there.
Is it at one?
I suppose my choices are some of them are a little bit left field, but I do love It's a Wonderful Life, and I think that deserves its place right near the top. I also think the Muppets Christmas Carol is probably the best
That's the
version
one with
ever
Michael
of
Caine?
Yes, yeah,
Michael Caine as
Yes.
Scrooge.
And there's
possibly the best Christmas Carol ever made.
it's brilliant.
Blackadder's Christmas Carol is very good.
Is that a film though?
No, but you said
Yeah.
the best Christmas Carol.
I
ever
did.
made.
I did
Probably
say
the best
that.
one's the one by Charles Dickens, isn't it?
The Muppet
Yeah,
Christmas Carol.
He wrote it. I
He
don't know.
made it.
He
Did he
didn't
make a book? I don't know. Sorry.
I'm
Sarah.
just enjoying this. I'm sitting here with the Odd Couple.
It's like
Yeah.
being here
So,
with the Muppets.
I've been
isn't
here.
it?
It is like being here with the Muppets. Like the two boys, you know, they play you're the two guys that sit up
Yeah, I
in
was
the
thinking
balcony.
that.
Statler and Waldorf.
I mean, you are
Yeah,
my
yeah.
bosses. You can fire me for that, but
That's a
what I was going
compliment,
to say.
isn't it?
yeah, they're cool.
To be the
My
Miss
favourite
Piggy
character.
of the situation, not.
Bit harsh.
I love Muppet Christmas Carol as well. It's probably one of the first Christmas films I ever saw. And a lot of fans of that particular film are actually campaigning online at the moment because they removed a song from it and nobody actually knows they did. But there is another song
I heard about
that was
this,
in
but-
Muppet Christmas Carol, which I haven't heard either. So I'm just doing a lot of talking about things I haven't seen, haven't
Yeah.
watched,
Have
haven't
you played
heard.
Muppets?
Have I played the video
This
game?
is-
Muppets 2,
This
the
is
video
all-
game.
This is the question.
This is all inadmissible in court.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's something about it, like you say, Michael Caine's in it. It's got real charm, and it's having those little animals like play the. Well, they're not real animals, obviously. They are puppets.
Muppets.
Muppets. I
They're
should
not
say.
animals,
Sorry,
they're-
Muppets. It
A
just
Muppet is a type of animal.
Is it?
yeah. Just brings a whole new.
It's
I
official,
think it
settled
brings a
that at
whole new
last as well.
dimension to the story and makes it really enjoyable.
Yeah.
But I also really like a film that I think is either you love or you hate, and that's Love Actually. Because it's it seems to be either reviled or absolutely adored by people.
yeah,
But for
divisive.
me, it's not Christmas till I've watched it at least once.
Yeah. So
What if you watch
I
it in the
haven't-
summer?
I have issues with that.
Right.
I've real issues with.
yeah,
TV,
I wouldn't
with
watch a
TV
Christmas. If I thought
broadcasters showing
a film was a
songs.
Christmas
Yeah.
film, I wouldn't want to watch it in summer. Except, Die Hard, you can watch in summer as well
I can watch Die Hard, yeah,
because
all
it's got
year
so many
round.
warm explosions.
Yeah.
But Love Actually, I didn't like it when I first watched it. I found it kind of really cringeworthy. Like the
I didn't
the
either,
wrong.
but I learned to like it.
Well, this is what I was going to say. The wrong
Like
side
coffee.
of Richard Curtis, maybe, and I still cannot watch the Hugh Grant dance. That, but yeah.
I'm just doing it.
I feel like it's maybe it's too long since I watched it for me to give I mean, I played the video game,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
played the
it's
sequel
maybe
video
too long since I watched it to give a definitive verdict. And I do remember liking the Liam Neeson and
That's a
his
great
son
storyline.
stuff. So yeah, maybe I won't say anything
There's some
too.
nice stories in it.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's
I mean-
it's a high concept kind of. There's lots going on.
So loved that they did Red Nose Day actually this year when they brought them all back together to kind of catch up
Yeah.
with them like 10, 15 years on.
And as a fan, how did you feel about that? Was it?
Meh.
Yeah.
Needed more Emma Thompson.
More Emma Thompson. There you go. What else we got on our list here that people are voting for as we speak? How can they vote, by the way, Sarah?
Oh, if you go to radiotimes.com, find our Christmas section, you will see our...
Just go to the website and dig around.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you'll find it somewhere. That's,
It's all over Facebook and Twitter, you know. I do my
or
job.
just go on the biggest social network in the world and dig around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be
You
fine.
can vote on the website.
Let's say you can find it at /Christmas.
Yes,
shall we?
radiotimes.com
And we'll make that
We can
happen.
make that happen
We'll
before
make,
this
we'll
comes
make
out.
that happen. Yeah.
Because this isn't
By the
live.
time you're you're watching this, please do watch this. It will be there, /Christmas.
Can you ask people to watch something in a thing that
No, it makes no sense.
Make any
They
sense?
have to be watching it already.
This is rapidly going off the rails.
Also
so
on the
let's,
list of Christmas films, which is what we're here to
Home
talk
Alone
about.
2, Lost in New York, starring the President of the United States,
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
Donald's been up to some stuff this
Does
week.
that, I don't know if that adds or detracts from it.
Home Alone,
but
though, is one of those kind of...
It's
I don't know
definitely
either.
a big name.
Yeah.
And it's quite good, and it has got that thing in, the walk and talk machine, which I always wanted as a kid.
And the New York Plaza Hotel, and it's that real kind of Christmas in New York feeling.
But
Obviously,
it's
he's a
not the
small
greatest
child
Christmas film
who's
ever
been
made,
lost.
is it? Let's face
No,
it.
no.
But it is fun. It's a fun film.
Yeah.
And it's set at Christmas. Miracle on 34th Street, several versions of that.
Yes.
Which version? The Attenborough one, I assume the original. Was that?
That's not the. That's
No, that's
No.
not the original.
No.
Not the original.
The Attenborough version is great from the 1990s.
I think that
Yeah,
the people on the internet probably like that one better.
Yeah,
I think so, because it's fresher in the memory.
the
Frozen.
original's black
Now is
and
Frozen
white.
a Christmas film?
Frozen has become a Christmas film because it was released, I think,
'Cause
in
it's
December,
cold.
and it's quite. It was the smash hit of Christmas 2004,
It's a
15.
great film. I don't
Like
think it's a Christmas
everybody-
film, personally.
But it's so snowy.
It's snowy. It's about ice.
Yeah, let it go.
Oh, very good. Very good. The Railway Children, see on this list. No. Chronicles of Narnia.
Gremlins is one for me.
Gremlins,
is
great film.
Love it, and it's very Christmassy. It's a snowbound town. He's given Gizmo as a Christmas present on Christmas Eve by his dad, and yeah, it's very very Christmassy and also brilliant and funny and yeah.
I saw Gremlins, one of the ones I have seen before.
Before you played the video game.
No, before Furbies were a thing.
Oh, really?
And I really wanted a Furby for Christmas, but I was also afraid if I got a Furby for Christmas, it would actually kill me in the night, like Gizmo's Gremlin friends.
Yeah.
That's why you're not meant to watch- you're not meant
Furbies
to
will
watch it
not
with
kill
kid.
your children in the night. Just to be clear.
Do you want to go on record saying that? I mean, if that now happens, I don't know.
This is all inadmissible in court, Paul. You've
Oh,
already
that's
told
true,
me.
that's
I
true.
like Bad Santa, and I haven't played the computer game.
Billy Bob Thornton. What a cracker of a film! I really enjoyed
It's
that
good,
as
it's
well.
really good,
But
yeah.
it's
It
kind
can't
of,
be the greatest Christmas film because it's
No, 'cause it's not-
because you can't watch it with the kids.
I think
and the family.
I think for a film to
Almost
be
like it has to be a family film.
yeah, it
doesn't
has to have a family
Although some
element.
people would
Die
say
Hard
something
is
that,
also
that
can't win
you
for
can't
that.
watch with the kids would be a great film
Yeah,
at Christmas, but no.
so we
I
haven't
think you're right.
we haven't decided the winner yet. have
Oh
we?
right.
No,
So
we
wha-
haven't.
I think the people are going to do that.
Well, yeah, they
Yes,
are.
we
This
want
is
them
it's
to
a
do
vote.
that.
I mean,
when
we
they
don't
go to
we don't decide.
radiotimes.com/Christmas.
Yeah. Shall I mention some other films that I
Elf.
like?
People love Elf.
People love Elf. They
There's
absolutely
always a
love
thing,
it.
isn't there, every year? When's Elf on the telly? And it's never on the telly.
No.
And people get really angry.
Yeah, quite rightly.
Yeah. I don't know why it's never on the telly.
We're telling
If
them
you-
where
if
they
you're
can watch it this
listening
year.
to
Yes.
this and you're a commissioner at a
If you-
TV
I won't give that
station,
away.
No.
I suggest you try and buy Elf for
Try and
next
get
year.
Elf,
If people
yeah.
want it.
Yeah.
We've got statistics that can back that up.
I think you
haven't
could launch a new TV station at Christmas
Elf
by
TV.
being the only one that had Elf.
we? And it just
Easily.
shows Elf on a loop.
It seems like the sort of
Not
thing
a bad
Sky
idea.
Movies would have a whole channel of, just Elf playing over and over. They'd like to do
Don't
those
have it,
theme
it's not
channels.
on. I'm not
Call
sure.
it Skelf, like Sky Movies Elf, just Skelf.
Cut that bit out.
Okay, so I think we need to sort of probably wrap
Scrooge.
this up with you each have. We now can say one film each that we think is the best Christmas
Oh,
film,
God.
and then we
The
hand it
pressure.
back to the people who really matter, the readers of RadioTimes.com, and
That-
they can make the final decision
It's only the right thing to do.
because
Yeah.
otherwise people like us will end up making the decision, and I don't think that's a good
No.
idea.
No, well, it would be a very, very long podcast.
I mean, I haven't even watched Die Hard, so how can I
No,
say?
you'd have to watch it
No.
first.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Everyone's going to say
What's
their
your
favourite.
favourite
Yeah.
Christmas film? Does anyone? You go first. if you
I am
can't do
going to
it.
say Muppet Christmas Carol
tough.
because I absolutely love it. But if you're going to watch a film at Christmas, you've got to watch The Sound of Music as well.
Okay, I will. Now that you've said Muppet Christmas
Muppets
Carol,
Christmas
I know
Carol.
I know it's there, so that's got a spot, so that's good. I'll say Die Hard. Yeah.
Good. I would go for Die Hard, but I think it needs to be a family film. So I'm going to say Elf.
I think
Because I know people
that's
want
three
it as
good,
well.
three good
People want
Christmas
it.
films.
So it's
yeah.
Elf, A Muppet's Christmas Carol,
And Die Hard.
and Die Hard.
Although
So,
that has no bearing on the actual
no.
results.
No.
So do go find the poll on the website or on Facebook somewhere.
What we'll do
Yeah.
is we can link to it in the description
Yeah.
below if you're watching on
Yeah,
YouTube.
do.
It's down there.
And it'll be on /Christmas, radiotimes.com/Christmas. Join us next week for an extensive Christmas preview of all
Excellent.
of the TV that you can watch. But until then, this has been the Radio Times podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.